Hello and welcome to The Wall. Brian David-Marshall here with Pro Tour Hall of Famer Luis Scott-Vargas, and we are going to watch a 5-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor draft, Lee Shi Tian. And he's at a pretty stacked table in terms of accomplishments. You know, you sit down at a table with 5 Pro Tour Top 8s, you kind of expect to have the most at the table, right?
Right.
But Gabriel Nassif sitting across from him is like...
About double that.
Yeah, just like, calm down, kid.
Yeah.
So Lee Shi Tian with Team MTG Mint card.
In first place right now.
In first place, yeah, in the Pro Tour Team Series. And also, his teammate, multiple of his teammates in first place in single elimination trophies in competitive
on Magic Online? All right.
Yeah. So, you know, multiple players jockeying back and forth, Jason Chung and Javier Dominguez jockeying back and forth based on time zones to be the #1 in drafts. And they were using that data to inform their draft strategy. So let's see how Lee implements what they learned in their playtesting house and on Magic Online. So there you get a look at Lee Shi Tian, the 5-time Pro Tour Top 8 competitor, and we see him open his pack, and he's got a Harsh Mentor right to the front. He's got a Top Crop.
Top Crop Elite and Scaled Behemoth are among the most powerful
I didn't see
cards
the Scaled
here.
Behemoth. That card, I hate that card. That card has ruined many good draft plans for me.
That Slitherblade's lurking suspiciously close to the front, though. Depending on how aggressive you think the format is, which most people think it's quite aggressive, I would expect him to take one of the cheaper cards. Top Crop Elite is one of the rewards for going wide in an aggro deck.
He takes the Harsh Mentor there, and this is, I know as a house, those guys really had a lot of success with red-white. Jason Chung was one of the first people I saw drafting that red-white archetype very high, you know, very aggressively online with a lot of cheap cards that, you know, maybe a lot of times are often categorized as unplayable. There you see an Edifice of Authority, see a Wind Guide Aven, and a Cartouche of Solidarity. So this is going to be an interesting early test for how high people are picking cartouches.
If Lee Shi Tian is willing to take Harsh Mentor first pick out of that last pack, then he really is prioritizing 2-drops, which are key in the red-white deck. And Cartouche of Solidarity is a natural follow-up to that pick. It's very, very aggressive, but looks like that's where we are. Yeah,
all right. So there you go, Cartouche of Solidarity. So +1/+1, first strike, and then you get a 1/1 Vigilant Soldier token when it resolves somehow.
He took one of the cards I put on my most overrated cards list, Cartouche of Solidarity, over one of the cards on my underrated cards list, Edifice of Authority. Not that I'm claiming that I know better than him, because he's clearly got a strategy that works for him, and I suspect he's going to follow up with Nefcrop Entangler or Fanbear, depending on which cost he's looking to fill out.
And you know, a card like Lay Claim, which in some formats you might be like really, really excited about, doesn't even pay any attention to that card. The Entangler is great. You know, it's a 2/1 on the board, but you know, gets the hit as a 3/3 trampler. He does take the Fanbearer there, leaves himself maybe even open to being a black-white zombie deck if that's available.
Yeah, he's certainly not locked in. Seeing a third pick Nefcrop Entangler is an actual real thing because of how aggressive this format skews, and he's got now 2 white cards and 1 red card. So, well, there's an honored crop captain. So, it seems like if that's his plan, he's really well on his way.
He's looking at that Cartouche of Knowledge. He's really been looking at blue cards here. I'm wondering if he feels like the red-white archetype is maybe a little overdrafted sometimes, and he's been, because I know that's like been their default, but honored crop captain right to the front, and he's got to feel that it's open here at this table.
If you're willing to first pick Harsh Mentor and second pick Cartouche of Solidarity, I'd be surprised if you didn't follow it up with the crop captain.
Yeah,
there.
And he does take the crop captain, boosts all your other creatures when it attacks. Pretty exciting. Again, if you're going wide and you're making 1/1 tokens, and you know, you can often just get by with one big alpha deck. There's a Consuming Fervor. That was a card that did some work at the Grand Prix and is pretty good in that red-white aggressive deck. There's a Minotaur Sure Shot. He's seeing a bunch of blue cards. He seems to definitely be taking note of those. There's
Fun fact about Minotaur Sure Shot, it has reach. It just doesn't look like it has reach, and a lot of people, when they play against it or with it, are not always aware of such things.
Yeah, there was a 2-week window where he was good for one free creature a game.
And looks like
his Jira's Resolve.
Yeah, just snaps up Jira's Resolve. Cheap combat trick, only costs 1 mana. Cycling 2 is a real cost, though, in a red-white deck.
But what's really nice is if you're in a red-white deck that has a lot of Exert, that actually also gives you an extra attack with a Gustwalker or something like that, where you get to get in twice with it with Exert.
And it looks like the Ret Crop Spearmaster being the only red-white card. And we're not speeding this up, by the way.
No, I know, this is crazy.
This is normal speed. Lee Shi Tian, you know, 5 Pro Tour top 8s is a great accomplishment. The speed at which he flicks his cards might be his second greatest accomplishment in terms of Magic.
It might be his first greatest. I mean,
Well, that's
it's
true.
really fast.
I guess there are other people with 5 or more Pro Tour top 8s. Not many other people can do it.
So there's impeccable timing. I saw brute strength in there.
The Bloodlust Inciter, I think, is one of the cards he might be interested in. Looking at Sacred Cat and Bloodlust Inciter as these one-drops that really get him going here.
So he did have the impeccable timing, does 3 damage to attacking blocking creature, but Sacred Cat was the pick. A card that 1/1 lifelinker for 1, comes back. It has Embalm. Also, when it comes back as a zombie, sometimes you have little zombie synergies that you get to do as well. Another Jira's Resolve.
A Gate to the Afterlife 2, maybe hoping he can snap up a God Pharaoh's Gift in pack 3. But I think in this deck, it looks like if he's willing to take Jira's Resolve earlier.
Yeah.
So one interesting thing about Sacred Cat, if other people are drafting the way LST is drafting right now, Sacred Cat does get better. Your opponents are playing a bunch of 2/1s, and Sacred Cat's great against those 2/1s. So it is good in an aggressive deck, but it's also good against aggressive decks.
Oh, and the Slither Blade has jumped onto the pile. He's been looking at those blue cards and was wondering if he was, haven't seen, we saw the 1 red white card, but we haven't seen a ton of red coming through.
Yeah, picking up Honored Crop Captains, seeing and passing a Nefcrop Entangler, those are both reasonable red cards, but yeah, he's not locked into red by any stretch. And judging by the position of Slitherblade, he in the packs that he's been looking at, he might think that it's like a reasonable card. Soulscar Mage is a 1-drop.
There you go. Blazing Volley, by the way, a card that's, you talked about that idea of people are playing 2/1s. Blazing Volley is a card that's really gone up in value for me in this draft format. See Lee just slamming cards down on his pile faster than the shutter of the camera could possibly pick up. Catcher's name. So, he's open here. He's white, really. He's got a blue card. He's got 2 red cards. Could be black-white zombies. Could be, he passed the Aven Wind Guide, though, really probably not looking to be blue-white. Well, what is he hoping to see here in pack 3?
Well, he's in a pretty good position because he's got, like you said, the 2 red cards and the 1 blue card, but a bunch of white cards. So
that's 2 blue cards, my friend. That was 2 Slither Blades. We missed one.
It looks like he one slithered into his pile faster than we could see. So I think that Lee is most likely going to be red-white, but if he opens a great blue card, or if he just takes 4 white cards in a row, sees no red, sees a couple blue cards, he could audible into blue.
Right.
One of the powerful things about being in this position is you've got 7 or 8 good white cards out of pack 1. You're pretty confident you're just going to be white, and the white cards you want are open. You're getting a lot of late, 1-drops, and you're getting the aggressive creatures you want. You can go either blue or red depending on what you see. So that's flexibility. That there's a tangible reward for being open in draft.
And he's got 3 cards also that have the word zombie on them. So
yeah, 2 the Catcher's
4
Name,
actually, if you count the Sacred Cat.
Being the first incentive he has for those zombies, but if he picks up like a Wayward Servant late, then he could end up into zombies.
Is that the card that you're looking for to push you into zombies at this point?
Binding Mummy actually might be what he prefers, because at this point Lee could take Binding Mummy and not even have to play black, just be a white-based zombie deck. But Wayward Servant's one of the more powerful reasons to be zombies.
Right.
Lord of the Accursed, another one. But if he opens, basically, you want to be in a position where if you open a great rare, you can take it. And whether that is, a Glory Bringer or a Curator of Mysteries, like whatever it ends up being. Obviously, if he opens like an Angel of Sanctions that's in white, that's, even better.
And he could still be white-green. He could still be anything.
Right. If he opens, Ronus the Indomitable, for example, maybe not the best in this low curve deck, but that sort of thing he wants to be open to taking.
All right, so there we see a Cast Out, and there we see a Gustwalker, and this is going to be an interesting...
There's also Insult to Injury. And
I did not
and that
see that.
is one of the best cards in the set.
That card is unbelievable. I felt guilty. I was like, am I first picking this? And took it, and it was insane.
The way Lee has been drafting, I'd be surprised if he does not take the Gustwalker. It just seems like it fits into the aggressive strategy that he's espousing here.
Would that have been your prediction about how this would go, like as you looked at the set?
No.
Leading into the pre-release?
It would not have been.
It would be maybe the 3rd or 4th card.
Cast Out. In a vacuum, Cast Out is a much better card in Limited. It is.
He does take the Gustwalker.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, that does not surprise me at this point. He's not the only person in the tournament who would do that.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Over Cast Out, over Takrop Elite, which is a payoff card possibly for his deck. Pretty interesting to see, but prioritizing those aggressive cards. And again,
Lee's just taken the cheaper card out of every pack. Every time he has a decision, the card that costs less mana is going into his pile.
And again, Gustwalker Jira's Resolve is a really nice little way for him to push through extra damage. So compulsory rest or True Heart Duelist. What's your take here, Luis?
I think that some interaction is good. I like compulsory rest. If you have enough pump spells, then True Heart Duelist does get better because you just want to have a mass amount of creatures in play. And it looks like Lee is leaning towards the True Heart Duelist, but we'll see. Because if you've got a bunch of Talkrop Elite, True Heart Duelist is going to end up being better. You just want to jam the board full of creatures. But
he does take the compulsory rest here.
I do like that. I think that I would rather have some interaction. Look, at some point, your opponent's going to play just an Enigma Drake that's a 3/4 on turn 3, because they have this great blue-red deck, and foreshadowing.
Not naming anybody.
Yeah, not naming any names specifically.
So there's a Wayward Servant.
Yeah.
There's a Cartouche of Zeal.
And I see a
Anointed Priest,
Cartouche of
another
Solidarity
impeccable
as
timing.
well.
Yeah, Cartouche of Solidarity.
Again, Lee doesn't have to commit to another color here. He could just keep taking white cards. But if you wanted to, basically, Wayward Servant, I think, is a more powerful card. But yeah, he's just going to go with the white card.
And again, not only are these guys prioritize 2-drops, they've prioritized 1-drops in their drafts. If you've watched them draft online at all, so that Cartouche on turn 2 can often get through a lot of damage.
So Lee with a super low curve mono white deck at this point. He's got a couple. The Glory Bound Initiate.
Wow,
Perfect.
Glory Bound Initiate.
It's 2-drop, 4-power creature. It works well with the 2 Jiru's Resolve that he's got. I think that this is a huge pickup and a sign that this deck is wide open.
Yeah. What card could be in this pack at this point that you would take over it?
Very, very little. Glory Bound Initiate it makes it so you crush the other aggressive decks by attacking for, with a 4/4 lifelink. And against control decks, it still just gets past all their creatures. So Lee's, you can't tell because when the players are at a table, they're going to have, a very, stone-faced look, but he's very, very happy about that.
Tower of the Godpharaoh is a card that I lost very early on to Jason Chung playing in the finals of a tournament.
And it is a little annoying that the warrior tokens have vigilance, but
yes.
I think Throne of the Godpharaoh is going to work out fairly well.
So at the end of each of your turns, your opponents lose life equal to the number of tapped creatures, and you can see from the strategy that we're watching Lee try to build here. He wants to be his creatures attacked in the red zone.
Yeah,
so
you can fan bearer your own vigilance creature.
Have done. And he does take the Tower of the Godpharaoh, so that's a nice little bit of inevitability for him. And sometimes also you exert your creature, and then it still gets to do some damage on the next turn. So I saw an impeccable timing, Cartouche of Knowledge.
Another Sacred Cat. How many Sacred Cats is too many?
I mean, once you get that first one.
Yeah. And Cartouche of Knowledge.
Is that what he took there?
Yeah, very good in the aggressive blue-white decks, the really low curve decks. Turn 1, I mean, it might have sounded like a joke if 3 weeks ago, but turn 1 Sacred Cat, turn 2 Cartouche of Knowledge, like that is a real thing.
It's a pretty late binding mummy. That is a very late binding mummy. There's a Talkrop Skirmisher. There's a Winds of Rebuke in the pack, another Sacred Cat, an Anointer Priest.
Yeah, I favor taking the binding mummy here, even though you're not in the prime zombie colors.
Yeah, sometimes he took the Talkrop Skirmisher.
Looks like, so by taking Talkrop Skirmisher over a very playable white card, I think Lee is very much moving into blue. He's got those 2 Slither Blades. He's hoping to put cartouches on them.
And other than a Cartouche of Zeal or 2, I don't think he's seen really much in the way of red here.
He's got those 3 Slither Blades, I should say.
And there it is, Slither Blade number 3. And from knowing these guys, that's a card I think he's going to end up playing.
Oh, yeah. At this point, Red Crop Spearmaster is not a bad pickup. Floodwaters, despite having cycling, you're not playing a deck that expects to get to 6 mana very often.
Yeah, Floodwaters is a card that has receded in value for me.
And it's less about Lee wanting to move into red versus blue. It's more whether he just wants to pick a second color at all.
Right.
And it looks like he's happy playing blue-white here.
So another Jiru's Resolve. There's a River Serpent. There's another Talkrop Skirmisher, and that's what he takes.
Yeah. So.
And also a card that he lets him just kind of bash in, trade, gets to embalm it later on, and just keep the pressure on and keep using his mana. Right.
So looking at the cards that Lee has selected, we're looking
That's a really late Wayward Servant.
It's a nice hedge to take that at this point.
But it also probably means that there is just not a black-white zombie player at the table.
Yeah. Lee's looking at playing a 15 or 16 land deck with no cards that cost more than 3 at this point. I don't even think he has a card that he is considering playing that costs more than 3. He's even picked up a Talkrop Elite. All his cards are 1-drops, 2-drops, and a couple 3-drops.
Wow. Wow. So there you get a look at Lee Shi Tian as he ends pack 2, takes his last card, squeezes on the table. It's a Sacred Cat.
All right. I mean, if things are open, things are open.
There you get a look at his cards. All right, so there you see. Man, that's really interesting to watch him draft this. This is something that he clearly wanted to do. Sounds like we're going to be thrown to a break here, and we'll be back with more Magic right after this. Fear not, we're back. We figured out where that third pack was hiding, and we're gonna bring it to you. Here you see Lee Shi Tian still reviewing. You see those 3 Slither Blades, multiple Sacred Cats, a couple of Cartouches, 3 Top Crop Skirmishers. He's got a couple of Ret Crop Spearmasters.
The Ret Crop Spearmasters, ooh, he picked up a late Open and Wonder.
Yeah.
The Ret Crop Spearmasters, literally the only cards that cost more than 2 mana in his deck.
Wow.
Like,
Wow,
and Lee has enough cards here that he doesn't even almost need anything in pack 3. He's obviously looking to pick up more cards.
Clearly like, what the control desk thought.
He tried to reject a pack 3. It didn't work, but we're back here. Actually, Lee would actually sign up for that. If the draft could end right there, that would be something he would choose.
Yeah, give everyone else one last chance to open up a bomb, and he's like, I'll just take my synergistic deck. So here we go. What is he looking to open up here in pack 3?
I mean, despite his curve being like this,
Slither Blade?
I still think, a card like Angel of Sanctions is, I would have a hard time passing up on that. But
it's got an Essence Scatter taken to the front of the pack. There's Those Who Serve. There's another Wayward Servant. Nothing super exciting here. Winged Shepherd, even though it's
Lee seems pretty sold on the blue cards, so I suspect he'll be taking like the Essence Scatter or potentially Those Who Serve.
There's an On-Crop Crasher there at the back of the
card
pack.
Is fantastic.
I would be right back in red right here.
But Wayward Servant likely to table here, and you have to keep that in the back of your mind. Like, if you end up with 3 Wayward Servants and 3 Binding Mummies, you could just be black-white.
Right.
Like, Lee has the flexibility of having so many playables. That's like another kind of flexibility where he can waste a couple picks and I think still be an okay space. But he did snap up the Essence Scatter, which is a combo with Slither Blade. You just go play like 2 Slither Blades and leave up Essence Scatter.
So there's an Aven Mind Sensor, an Unwavering Initiate, a unplayable 7-drop, I'm sure, in his deck. There's another Essence Scatter as well. What do you like here for the deck?
I think that the Mind Sensor is pretty reasonable. Part of
especially if you're gonna have things like Essence Scatter in your deck, and you can sort of
and part of it too. Unwavering Initiate is decent with all the cartouches. Giving it first strike is quite strong.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he took that.
Does take the vigil. Take the Unwavering.
I do like taking a 3-drop because even though Lee's curve ends at basically 2 with just a couple 3s, he's going to play enough land that he's going to hit 3 lands most games.
Right.
So you do want a couple cards that cost more than
how low can you go on land count in a deck like this?
It's pretty hard to go below something like 15.
Yeah.
Because once you go to 14, which you can do, but once you go to 14, you run the risk of just not drawing any islands.
Honed Kopesh or True Heart Duelist, Luis? Putting you on the spot here.
With the deck he's got right now, I think it's the Kopesh.
Wow,
He puts it on a bunch of Slither Blades. He's got tons of 2-drops. The Duelist is honestly not that different from Top Crop Skirmisher once you come down to it. Like, it's better, but Honed Kopesh, I mean...
You called your shot there. Yeah, he did take the Honed Kopesh.
I don't know how a Sacred Cat holds one of those things, but it is effective once you get... Maybe you strap it to the back
Mostly
or
it just
what
knocks
have
it
you.
off the table.
Yeah, and hopes an enemy gets in the way.
There's a start to finish. Wow, there's an Aketra the True.
Yeah,
that's a 4-drop you can justify playing in this deck?
In your 19 creature deck, or whatever he ends up with, Aketra the True does work. You're gonna have 3 creatures in play. He's got all these 1-drops and all these tokens.
Double strike, indestructible. You get to also, if your board is empty, if you've somehow been swept, you get to make tokens with it. You get to fill the board.
Look, I appreciate keeping your curve low. Maybe not as much as Lee Shi Tian, but at some point you still have to take the 4-mana card, which is gonna be amazing in your deck.
So he's got a Sacred Cat and a Slither Blade to choose from. But
the world is his oyster.
The world might still be his oyster a second time around the table.
Yeah, I'm liking Slither Blade more than Sacred Cat at this point.
Do you think about a card like, he does take the Slither Blade. I was wondering if you think about a card like in Aketra's Name, even though you don't have a ton of zombies to maximize it.
I don't think so because Lee's creatures are fairly small and, like you said, not zombies, so it doesn't add a ton to it.
Right.
And Slither Blade's already unblockable, so he'd rather just kind of hit in for that damage.
There's a Sparring Mummy, a Honed Kopesh, really the only cards. Naga Oracle, not a card he is going to.
There's no way Naga Oracle would get in there. Vizier of Tumbling Sands is a little interesting, but yeah, I expect him to take the Kopesh.
He did. He took a second Kopesh. So this is the plan. Get some 1-drops down, maybe, and then just enhance them with Kopeshes and cartouches. And then when your opponent stabilizes, play your God and break their heart.
Yeah, or play Cartouche of Knowledge and just go over the top.
What do you like better here, Cartouche of Knowledge or Cartouche of Solidarity?
I have to lean towards Cartouche of Knowledge. I think it's quite close. Oketra actually does give you incentive to play Cartouche of Solidarity, but
I feel like we're never going to know which one he picks.
It's unlikely at this point, but I think he's going to take a Cartouche. Yep, your prediction has come true.
He does take a Cartouche. There we go. I mean, we're like, I think 33% on that a lot of times with that. There's another Sparring Mummy. Didn't take the last one.
Yeah, I suspect it will not make his deck. He could actually be in the spot of taking Blazing Salvo to not have to play against it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, one of the things, and I wonder if leagues contribute to this. When you're playing the leagues, you don't actually have incentive to hate draft.
Right.
And Lee's played tons and tons of leagues.
Yes.
But you're in an 8-player pod right now. It actually does matter.
Right. Sparring Mummy is the pick. There's that Wayward Server. Came all the way around the table.
Yeah, you could play Winged Shepherd. I just don't even think he's going to put a card that costs 6 mana into his deck.
Again, I think the Stinging Shot might be a card I want to take.
Yeah, and he does.
Out of the pack. Yeah, he does take it for exactly the same reason. I mean, you cycle it if for some reason you were short of playables, which he's not, but also it's not going to do anything to you. There's the Seraph. There's another Winged Serpent. There's Illusory Wrappings. Wrappings, oddly, not a card he's going to love in his deck. It doesn't get anything out of the way, right?
Well, one advantage of his deck is that he doesn't need to get things out of the way as much as many aggro decks because of all the Slither Blades and Cartouche of Knowledge, but it's still not a card I would put a high priority on.
So Decision Paralysis is the pick there.
Took decisively there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he has not had any decision paralysis in this draft. He's known exactly what he's doing. Vizier of Remedies, Catcher's Name.
I don't even think Vizier makes the cut. It's funny because a lot of aggro decks are just going to play 2 mana 2/1s.
Remedies, or was that the other Vizier?
There's Vizier of Remedies.
Okay, yeah.
But Lee's got a bunch of 2-drop 2/1s with upside, whereas that card is maybe a sideboard card at best against a deck that's trying to kill your creatures with -1/-1 counters.
Does end up with an Catcher's Name somewhere in there, but again, probably not a card he's going to play. You see the players will be registering their decks and getting down to the action. We'll get the first round of play going really soon here at Pro Tour Amonkhet. How do you like this deck?
If this is the deck you want, this is a great version of it. Also, picking up Oketra herself is solid. I think that Lee ended up with a very good deck.
Right. Grade this deck on week 1, and now grade that deck.
Right. Week 1, I would have been like, well, you've got a bunch of Slither Blades and Sacred Cats in your deck. Week 3 now, it's like, well, this is a good version of the blue-white aggressive deck.
Okay. Luis Scott-Vargas, thank you. Brian David-Marshall. And we're now going to throw it to a break now that we've seen all 3 packs of Lee Shi Tian's draft.